Hey guys, I'm Tom the Tech Chap, and you probably recognize this. This is the ASUS ROG Zephyrus G14, the 2023 model, and it is a very nice thin and light gaming laptop. But what if you wanted something like this, but perhaps didn't want to spec it with a 4080 or 4090, and you wanted something a little bit thinner, sleeker, lighter, with new processors and better speakers, a better webcam, and also perhaps an OLED screen? Well, let me introduce you to the 2024 ROG Zephyrus G14, a fresh take, if you will, on the thin and light gaming laptop, and it is very nice. A full redesign. We've got the latest AMD Ryzen 8000 series processors. We also have up to an RTX 4070, and for the first time on any ROG gaming laptop, an OLED screen. Oh, and if 14 inches doesn't quite satisfy you, then we do also have its bigger brother, the G16. Very similar, albeit bigger OLED screen, up to 240Hz rather than 120, Intel rather than AMD chips, higher end GPU options with vapor chamber cooling, and also an SD card slot. That's the main stuff. But before we dive in, I have to show you the box ASUS sent this in, and with what is, without doubt, the best review guide / product handbook I've ever seen. So ASUS have refreshed almost their entire ROG lineup here at CES. We've got the brand new G14, new G16, we've got new Strix car flagship laptops, we've also got the new slightly more affordable TUF series of gaming laptops. So there's a lot of great new hardware, but I want to talk about these. What is interesting though is that these aren't actually direct replacements for these, the 2023 models of the G14 and in this case the M16. They will still be on sale, and it's more about giving you more options, because with this older G14 in particular, this can be spec'd with up to a 4080 or 4090. We have higher TGPs and also upgradable RAM and slightly beefier cooling, whereas this guy with its slim new chassis tops out with a 4070. You've got 50, 60 and 70 options depending on where you live, different SKUs for different regions, although the G16 can be spec'd with up to a 4090, which is what I've got on here. Now, believe it or not, but this is the 5th generation G14, and it's also the first major design refresh we've had in 2 years. For starters, it's 2mm thinner and 200 grams lighter than last year, and actually the G16 is a whopping 450 grams lighter and 6mm thinner. We do still have the dark and the light versions of the new models, but unlike the painted plastic we had before, this is actually anodized aluminium. It's a full aluminium alloy chassis, which makes it feel a whole lot more premium. Although I have realized this G16 in its gray next to the space black MacBook Pro, very similar looking laptops, except this has an OLED screen and a 4090. On the lid, we have this new anime strike lighting strip, and the good news is all models of this new G14 get this lighting strip. It's not just an option for higher end SKUs. And if you jump into the ROG Armory crate, where you've got your usual performance modes and settings, you can customize and even create your own custom anime vision GIFs for this strike bar. Now on the inside, we have these new little speaker grills flanking the keyboard, and in fact we have 6 speakers in total on this, including a force-cancelling woofer, and I have to say this sounds incredible. It's among the best speakers I've ever experienced on a laptop. Also, I don't think they could squeeze in a bigger trackpad into this chassis. It's a little bit bigger than before, and it's also now 16:10 aspect ratio, so it matches the screen. The keycaps are 12% larger, but with the same key gap and also the same travel distance as before. We get a USB Type-C and a Type-A port on both sides, plus an HDMI 2.1, micro SD card on this, although full size on the G16, and we also have this new ASUS Slim Power Jack, which replaces the old barrel DC power. It is reversible, as you'd hope, and ASUS tell me that they're actually adopting this on all their laptops that have over 150 watts of power use, because they say via Type-C, a 240 watt TDP laptop would lose about 10% of its energy going via Type-C port. So it's a lot more efficient, and it also frees up a Type-C port for your other peripherals or connecting to an external monitor. But a bit more exciting than the ports, we have to talk about this brand spanking new OLED screen. So firstly, this plasticky protruding bezel is now thinner and flush with the display. It's also glossy rather than matte, which does bring out that lovely deep contrast you get with the OLED panel, but I do kind of miss how well this handled reflections. But the headline is ASUS have finally made the leap from mini LED to OLED. Why is it taking them so long? Well, apparently it's because they just couldn't get the panel, they couldn't manufacture or buy one for, a reasonable price that didn't make this completely unaffordable, that also had the gaming features they wanted, like VRR, a high refresh rate, and high brightness. So this 2024 G14 has a 2880 by 1800 resolution, so that is 16 by 10, 120Hz refresh rate, although that is down from last year's 165. We get FreeSync VRR. Impressively, it is Display HDR 500 True Black certified, and I measured a peak of 520 nits in SDR and 820 in HDR, which is insane for an OLED panel, especially on a laptop. OLEDs offer infinitely better contrast, zero light bleed, better viewing angles, and also faster response times, as low as 1 millisecond versus around 3. So for gaming, for watching movies, even for editing videos or working and using this more as a workstation laptop, this screen is absolutely stunning. And I think it's even more impressive on the G16, which obviously is larger, but it also boasts double the refresh rate, 240Hz versus 120. However, this actually has a slightly lower resolution compared to this, and of course it's bigger, so we're actually looking at about 188 pixels per inch on here versus about 242, so this is actually quite a bit sharper. So lovely new OLED screens, sleek new designs, but what hasn't changed is the graphics card. Because NVIDIA haven't launched a new sort of super series of their mobile laptop GPUs yet, we have the same 4050, 6070, 1890, etc. from last year. So this guy tops out with a 4070, this with a 4090. But what is new on both are the processors. Now this comes with the new AMD Ryzen 8000 series. This is the Intel's 14th gen Meteor Lake, which does mean the performance boost over 2023 models for games will be limited to the CPU upgrade. Now, I would very much like to tell you how Intel and AMD compare, and also how much faster this is over last year's models, but unfortunately I'm not allowed to test them. I did actually spend a whole day benchmarking these, but then ASUS said, well, these are pre-production units, and they're a little bit tuned for CES, where they're being unveiled, so we can't show benchmarks just yet. So we'll have to revisit performance and also battery life in my full review. But what I can tell you is both Intel and AMD's new CPUs offer a big boost to their integrated graphics, which obviously isn't as important for laptops like these, with dedicated GPUs, although it does mean, because they have MUX switches, which can go between integrated, hybrid, and dedicated graphics, when you're not gaming and not using the dedicated card, general performance will be better, and hopefully the battery life will be as well. And of course, the other big push is AI, with a new dedicated NPU, which is a lot more efficient for specific AI tasks, freeing up the GPU and the CPU. So for productivity tasks that have AI tools, it could be a fair bit quicker. These, as I say, are kind of like successors to last year's G14 and M16, but they're not replacements, as I say. And there are a couple of compromises, the main one being due to the slimmer chassis, they've actually incorporated lower TGP graphics cards. So I've got the 4060 in this guy, which has a 125 watt TGP, whereas the 4060 in this is 90 watts. Also with the G16, well, again, this can be spec'd with up to a 4080 or 4090, like the M16. This maxes out with a 115 watt TGP for the 4090 versus 160 watt on last year's M16. Also, that is mini LED and can get brighter, also upgradable RAM. So interestingly, the 2023 models are still worth considering, but it's up to you whether you want the best, highest end performance or this slimmer, lighter, more refined, less gamery design, if you will, the OLED screens and also the new processors. So if you're after a kind of MacBook Pro, Windows, gaming / workstation laptop that also manages to pack in an OLED screen and up to a 4090 graphics card, then these G14 and G16s are definitely worth considering. If you've got any questions at all, drop a comment below. Also, I will leave pricing and availability for these guys in the description, and also I'll pin a comment. And hopefully you found this video useful. If you did, a cheeky little like and subscribe would be lovely, and I will be back with full reviews where I can test the performance, the battery, and everything else, and really see how they compare in terms of value for money as soon as I possibly can. So I'll see you next time right here on the Tech Chat.